According to unnamed sources following the loss to TCU, Kyle Whittingham was quoted as saying, "Oh no, my only worry is how far we'll drop in the Locked On Big 12 Power Rankings." This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. Off the top of the show, I'll give you 1 through 16 in the Big 12 based on the power rankings. In the middle segment, we haven't even gotten a year of football in it. Oklahoma and Texas already regret leaving the Big 12. I'll tell you why and the intricacies there. And finally, third segment, we always talk about how crazy the Big 12 is. What if it's not? BYU and Iowa State are changing what the Big 12 does, and the national media still won't respect it. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep I don't want to get fired. I would like to pay rent. Power rankings, #1 in the Big 12. I'm still siding with Iowa State. I saw somebody rank Iowa State 1, Kansas State 2 this week. I won't do that, but I'm still going to go with Iowa State. Do I think Oklahoma State's better than UCF? What's a more quality win in that conversation? I don't know. I think Oklahoma State, UCF are both pretty even. The same final score of both those games. I've had Iowa State at #1 in this conference. They are the more efficient team on both sides of the ball. BYU's offense, though it was very good this week, is still analytically not as good when it comes to EPA as Iowa State. That's something I factor into a lot of this. Power rankings wise, who's got more momentum? You could argue for both teams. Iowa State 4-0 in Big 12 play for the first time ever. BYU a star. No one could have seen this coming. I've got Iowa State at 1. BYU at 2. I asked to see from BYU them go from behind and win a football game. That was the one thing I needed to check the last box. They did it. They're very dangerous moving forward. Everyone has these close wins. How about Alabama? They had a close loss to Vanderbilt. I'm sure if they had beaten Vanderbilt, it would have been a tough, hard-fought SEC game. I'm not worried about either of these schools. That's why I still have Kansas State at 3. I cannot justify Kansas State going above BYU when even if you're of the mind that, it was fluky in the middle 8 minutes of the football game, take those out. It's a different game. I don't care. I'm looking at the score. BYU beat Kansas State. Can Kansas State win the Big 12? Are they currently the best team in the Big 12? Yes to the first one, and I can't definitively tell you on the second one. I watched them lose to BYU. They're 3, but man, are they dangerous. And they're on a crash course to playing Iowa State later this season for Colorado. I doubted. I feel like a lot of us doubted. Foot in mouth, I'll eat crow. I don't mind being wrong. Preseason predictions are, that's the word there, predictions. It's not what actually happens. And Colorado, defensively especially, the way they put pressure on Noah Fafita in Arizona, very good. They're #4 this week. The offensive weapons running wild, even when they're not 100%. Colorado's at 4. 5, Cincinnati. Again, I'm sorry, Scott Satterfield. Preseason predictions. I was predicting based on what I have here on paper, the preseason analytics based on what your roster looks like. And Cincinnati, per Pick 6 previews, should have been 13th in the conference. They're currently 5th in the power rankings and a legitimate contender, if there are a couple losses at the top, to vie for a Big 12 championship. Oh, I'm shocked by this. They were in the college football playoff a couple of years ago. They've still got dudes. They've still got dogs. 6, Arizona State. I cannot dock Arizona State that much for the competitive game they played this week. And maybe moreover, I can't put Texas Tech in front of them or TCU or West Virginia. This competitive loss against a Cincinnati team that's in the top 5 of the Big 12, a Cincinnati team that's very even with Arizona State, cannot put Arizona State at the bottom of the conference. They're at 6. They still have arguably the best running back in the league. One of the top 3, no doubt, in a deep running back league. And if Sam Leavitt returns, he puts them in a position to win. 7, Texas Tech. You got your ish rocked. In the game between BU and TT, the Butt Bowl, Texas Tech was ASS. Awful. Still a top half team in the Big 12 based on 3-1 record in this conference. And yes, despite losing, the sky is falling for this week. You're still in contention for a conference title and thus a college football playoff spot. 8, TCU. You would be like top 3 if you just fired Kendall Briles. I don't know how TCU lost to Houston and SMU and snuck its way back up to 8. That's because dog water describes the bottom 8 of this conference, I guess. 1, Iowa State, 2, BYU, 3, Kansas State, 4, Colorado, 5, Cincinnati, 6, Arizona State, 7, Texas Tech, 8, TCU, 9, West Virginia. that just goes to show how the back end of this conference has to step it up a little bit. If West Virginia is a top 10 team in the Big 12 and putting on performances like that at home, fans begging for the head coach to be fired. West Virginia, a historic football program, most wins of any Big 12 school without a championship, maybe all-time total wins of any school. They haven't been in the top 25 poll since 2019. I was 12 years old that year. West Virginia's at 9 still, though, because what are you going to put Arizona above them? They're at 10. We're going to put Baylor above them? They're 11. They're 1-3 in Big 12 play. It's tough to justify any of these bottom end teams. We went from a couple of weeks ago saying, yeah, there are 10 schools competitive at the top that are bowl teams. Now it's, we've got like 8 bowl teams, and then a couple of you are just going to go to a bowl by virtue of everyone at the bottom beating up on each other. I'm going to get into more of that at the end of the show when it comes to BYU and Iowa State carrying a lot of this league. 9 West Virginia, 10 Arizona. You still got Noah Fafita. You're in the same realm as West Virginia in the fire the coach conversation, but you're still a top 10 team in the Big 12. Because again, can't put Utah above you or UCF or Kansas or even Baylor. Put the Bears up there. They're 3-4, but they're also 1-3 in Big 12 play. Maybe you put Baylor above Arizona, Baylor 11. Sample size, buddy. Arizona beat Utah. Baylor didn't. Transitive property doesn't work in college football. Oh, it's a different Utah team. I watched Baylor in the second half of that game against Utah when Cam Rising wasn't in, and the Bears still kind of stunk. 11 Baylor. I don't trust them. 1 week. Like, oh, wow, this Baylor team is 8-4. I can't say that yet. It would be idiotic to say that any team past Arizona State will go 8-4. Like Texas Tech, Baylor, Kansas, UCF, Kansas can't. UCF, how could any of you as a fan base justify we will go 8-4, period? Haven't seen enough yet. We're in the back half of the season. You got to start winning. 12 Utah. Fire somebody, please. Fire somebody. 12 preseason number 1, consensus number 1. Everyone thought you were going to run away with the conference. Best roster of all time. Even last year when you were banged up, at least you won football games. What happened to that? 3 straight losses? I like good teams. You're not one of them. 13 Oklahoma State. Same deal, man. Preseason top 5. I was like, I don't overly trust Alan Bowman, so I kept him at 6 in my preseason rankings. Whew. 6 was too high. Gundy, I guess. Got to keep him, though, right? He'll find a way to finish above 500. UCF at 14. Sometimes this is the same thing as when Baylor lost to Colorado. It's like, wow. I hate docking you points because you lost close in a competitive game against a better team on the road. But also, you have every opportunity to just close the game out, as did Baylor in that one, and you didn't. UCF's still a bottom 3 team in this conference. You could argue that Oklahoma State or UCF could flop at 13 and 14. 15, Kansas. Yay. You're up from 16. You are 2-5. Meeting 16. What a Cinderella run it was. 1 win in Big 12 play. I moved them up to 11. This week at 16, where they rightfully belong. They're back. Back again. Houston Cougars. Number 1, Iowa State. 2, BYU. 3, Kansas State. Can't argue those. 4, Colorado. Can't really argue that. 5, Cincinnati. 6, Arizona State. I don't think you can argue those. Here's where it gets crazy. 7, Texas Tech. 8, TCU. 9, West Virginia. 10, Arizona. 11, the Baylor Bears. 12, Utah. What are you doing? 13, Oklahoma State. What are you doing? 14, UCF. What are you doing? 15, Kansas. That's a stretch of 4 teams. My preseason top 6, 7. 16, Houston. You are right on pace where everyone thought you would be. Dead last. Coming up, Oklahoma and Texas. They're on the phone right now with Brett Yormark saying, I'm joking. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn Talent Solutions. Oh, look, Locked On Big 12 had 1 million views on Twitter this weekend. I wonder why. It's because of Zach, the intern who runs the Twitter. When you're hiring for small businesses, you want to find a quality professional that fits the right role. LinkedIn, 70% of their users don't use other leading job sites. So if you want to find the right candidate, they're on LinkedIn. 24 hours. Within 24 hours, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. You can find your own Zach. Find a guy who's going to get you 1 million impressions on Twitter in 1 weekend alone. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That is linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Keep in mind that terms and conditions do apply. Visit LinkedIn today. Texas and Oklahoma already regret leaving the SEC. Like the phone is picked up. Like, hey, Chris Del Conte. Hey, just kidding. Joe Castiglione. Just kidding. We want to come back. We feel like we're a little more even there. We can compete there. Oklahoma, I'll give it to you, ran the Big 12 for the last decade they were here. Texas had one Big 12 championship. Baylor had like 3. Whew. And now here's the thing. Oh, already the keyboard warriors, Oklahoma and Texas fans, enter in the comment section. We're way better off in the SEC. You're just mad you're in a poverty conference and you're not up here with the high and the mighties. Oklahoma got its brakes beat off by South Carolina. Texas, in the biggest home game it's had in years, got its brakes beat off by Georgia, the same Georgia team who lost to Alabama, who lost to Vanderbilt. Transitive property, Vanderbilt's better than Georgia. That's a joke. These two teams, this conversation needs to stop. This conversation of, we have more money. Your name is Kevin. You're from Gatesville, Texas. Grew up a Longhorns fan. Your name is Diane from Ada, Oklahoma. Grew up a Sooners fan. You guys hate each other. But there's one thing you can rally around. That's that we're in the big, mighty SEC. We're going together. O-U-T, out. OU and Texas. And guess what? When we leave for the SEC, that poverty Big 12, we're going to have way more money. You know how many times Oklahoma made the college football playoff in the Big 12? It was a conference best suited for Oklahoma. Texas couldn't even win in the conference and decided, brand standpoint, let's cancel Longhorn Network. That didn't work. Oh, you wanted to watch the replay of the 2004 Rose Bowl again? Yeah, it's the 7th time it played today. I haven't watched that game in months since that network went down. My question for Kevin and Diane then. When you had two teams who were better suited for the Big 12, who said, we can be a big fish in a big pond. We deserve it. Is when you come to the table in this conversation and say, look at you, Kansas State fan. Look at you, BYU fan. Poverty, you have less money. Kevin, Diane, how much of that money did you see? Did the concession prices they went up, right? Oh, the merchandise prices, they went up too? Oh, shoot. Season tickets got mixed around a little bit. Now those are more expensive as well because we entered the SEC. Oh, it's tougher for me to get to a game and I'm paying way more for everything. But wait, I thought Texas was making more money. I thought Oklahoma was making more money. So that if they're at $55 million a year and the Big 12 is at $35 million, obviously, we're a much better school. And that's going to affect me as a fan. It doesn't. It doesn't. You know what it does? It lets you watch your team lose on a more consistent basis because the conference they were consistent with is one they're no longer in. That's what it does. Oh, yeah, we have 20 million more a year. Look at our facilities. How many times do you walk in the practice facility? How many times do you get to drive that player's Ferrari they got from the NIL collective? May I introduce you to universities like Oklahoma State or Baylor or BYU that are doling out copious amounts of money directly into NIL? That TV money, that 20 extra million a year you get from the SEC to watch your team lose. I'm going to pause right there. That's a fun aside. It's a fun aside I just thought of. The TV networks that are paying you, that are paying your schools, they're definitely not paying you. They're paying your school to lose. Then that same TV network is displaying for God and everybody your team losing. Yeah, well, at least they're paying us. They're paying so that you get to watch your team lose even more. And on prime time in the biggest game possible. Oh, Scotty Scheffler was there. Great. Matthew McConaughey, that one actor who had that stink with Sydney Sweeney. Hot. Cool. Does that, okay? You got waxed this weekend. Unpause. In these conversations about 55 million, that's not NIL money. That's not collective money. That's not going into the pockets of the players. One day it might, if we have the NCAA demanding that schools pay their players directly from the university and tax them and they become official employees of the universities. That's not today. That hasn't happened. So instead, you're a sitting duck in a conference that you can't compete in. And if you're Texas, I get it. There's some Texas fan out there saying, oh, we only lost one game, and it's stupid to say that Georgia lost to Alabama, who lost to Vanderbilt. That doesn't even matter because we killed Colorado State. Yeah, they suck. Oh, we killed Michigan. They just got drubbed. Like, what? Oh, UTSA. Yeah, they're terrible. Louisiana Monroe. Okay. 51-3. Congrats. What? Baylor beat Tarleton State. Mississippi State. You struggled with them. And then we beat Oklahoma. Great. The one team you've played this entire season, you lost 30-15, got embarrassed at home against. Now you go on the road to play Vanderbilt, and I'm going to shoot you straight, buddy. It's not a guarantee you're going to win that one. You just left the Big 12. We got to trade Oklahoma and Texas for BYU, who is a machine, an entertainment juggernaut, who is awesome to watch play football. Texas, OU, you're not even fun to watch. No one enjoys putting you on their TV. There's not a lovable side to really either of you in this conversation. Now, Vanderbilt, I don't know if you're going to win that one. Oh, what about Florida? Ooh, DJ Lagway's a good quarterback. Oh, happy noon game, by the way, in Gainesville. Everybody's going to be watching that one, huh? At Arkansas, you host Kentucky. Both of those are winnable. Sure. Those are your Oklahoma State and Kansas games, although you would lose to Kansas. And then at Texas A&M, a game that you might just lose. Texas. You having fun down there with all your more money? Congrats, guys. Looking great. Loved watching you bench your quarterback this week, put in a different quarterback, and then bench that quarterback, put in the old quarterback. Awesome. Hey, how about Oklahoma, though? Come on. We're going to figure it out, guys. We have this new head coach, Brent Venables. We hate. Brent Venables good. We hate Lincoln Riley, who also stinks. We're going to beat Temple. We're going to beat Houston 16-12. Oh, we'll beat Tulane, though. Same thing Kansas State did, but on the road. Yeah, we will be non-competitive offensively against Tennessee. We'll barely sneak by a pretty bad Auburn team, get trounced by Texas, and you know what? We've given up. Our season's over. And it's not like I could make the case here that the Big 12's easier in this schedule. I don't think the Big 12's overall easier because I just read Texas' schedule. It's not that bad. It's really not that bad. I'm making the case that these two schools are more suited for the Big 12 from a competitive standpoint. Like you've been here, you're used to it. You've displayed Oklahoma that you can win in this conference. You're not ready for this. Texas, you're not ready for this. And for OU, congrats, because the cheese SEC schedule, you get to play Maine in a couple weeks. Your only shot at winning another game. Oklahoma is going to miss a bowl game at 5-7 this year. Was that worth it? Was that worth leaving a conference that you're so miserable? You hated watching competitive games, winning. Cool. Great. Oh, but there's a new hot tub in the players' lounge. Ugh. You're never going to step foot in that players' lounge. And no kid is walking into Norman, Oklahoma going, oh, look, a hot tub. None of the other schools I've been to have this. Texas Tech is a lazy river. Get your money up, not your funny up. Oklahoma's abysmal. Texas, if they even have a quarterback on roster, see what they're able to do the rest of the way with their cakewalk SEC schedule. That honestly fights against my point. They got an easier schedule in the SEC than they did in the Big 12. Just go Google their schedule. It is stunning. Texas plays one really hard game, whereas BYU or Iowa State or Kansas State or Colorado, like we traded Texas and OU for Deion Sanders and BYU, top 10 BYU. That rocks. Coming up, BYU and Iowa State are changing the Big 12 game on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show brought to you by Game Time. The reason I love Game Time is because I work for the Savannah Bananas, and we're in the off season right now. And in the off season, I love to go to concerts. In the in season, I love to go to concerts. I go to Game Time and say, where is Tyler Childers playing? And Game Time says, Saskatchewan, Canada. And I think I can't really afford that, can I? Yes, I can, because Game Time allows it. They have curated deals that make it easier to find the best price on great seats. They have super deals. You can view the seat before you buy with their Seat View feature. Lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, job loss protection as well. All-in pricing, toggle that thing. Toggle it. See the all-in pricing with no surprise fees at checkout. That is Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is Game Time. BYU and Iowa State are changing the entire way we view the Big 12 conference. I want us to take a step back a bit. We can still use the word chaos for this league. That's appropriate. Insane for this league. That's appropriate. We can use those words. Parity, by and large, will apply because, Baylor goes and beats Texas Tech. That's crazy. Oh, my gosh. Do you see that wild game between Colorado and Kansas State? That's parity, right? Oh, wait. Oof. See that wild game between Kansas State and BYU? That's parity, right? No, hey, stop. Whoa. something's happening in the Big 12 that I don't think we're addressing enough. There are 4 schools at the top. You could maybe put Cincinnati in this. I'm still waiting a bit to see if they deserve to be with Colorado and BYU, Iowa State, Kansas State. There are 4 schools in this conference. Pump the brakes. It's no longer, oh yeah, the Big 12 is going to cannibalize, eat each other alive. No, we have legitimate contenders at the top of the league that are winning. BYU is not out here losing to Houston. BYU is not out here losing to Kansas. Same thing for Iowa State. So when I am watching the game on ESPN and Brock Osweiler pops off and says, for TCU, they're going to win this game tonight. The way the Big 12's going, 2 losses might not keep you out of the conference championship. What do you mean the way the league's going? Are you watching the way the league's going? 2 teams are dominating in the one category that matters the most, wins. And maybe that the ESPN group that was on the game, the TCU and Utah game the other night, maybe they just don't know a lot about ball because they kept saying weird stuff like, oh, the Big 12 can miss the college football playoff for Army. Oh, yeah, or for Boise State. Do you not look at just the standings? I have them pulled up right now. There's a Google machine at your fingertips. BYU 4-0. Iowa State 4-0. Undefeated. Kansas State 3-1 in Big 12 play. 6-1 on the season. Colorado, owner of Travis Hunter, of Deion Sanders, of Jimmy Horn Jr., they're 3-1 in Big 12 play. There is a narrative that we have got to shake. And maybe the prime example is 2022. Get ready for this. Buckle up. Go on a ride with me. We'll take you back. If you're a new Big 12 member and you weren't here with us then, the year of our Lord 2022, my beloved TCU Horned Frogs go to the national championship game and play Georgia. Do you know what game they lost in the postseason before losing to Georgia? That would be the Big 12 championship game to Kansas State. Kansas State, a top 10 team with Will Howard at quarterback, wins the Big 12 conference. In the scenario of 2022, the Big 12 not only gets Kansas State, if we have a 12-team playoff, gets Kansas State in, they also get TCU. The Horned Frogs would have still been a top 5, top 6 team despite that loss. Know how I know? Because they lost that game and still made the 4-team college football playoff. So then Kansas State and TCU are both in. We had two playoff teams come from the Big 12. If you were today to take the AP poll, if you were not to listen to the wild talking heads like, oh, the Big 12 is so inferior, the SEC is exploding. The Big 10 is exploding right now. They don't know what to do. Michigan sucks. USC sucks. Washington sucks. The Big 12, we've got a lineup of legit contenders, of real football teams. And if you don't pay attention to the talking heads and you go by the AP poll, which, by the way, is still awful, you cannot explain to me. I'll get there in a second. If you go by the AP poll, the Big 12 has 2 teams in the college football playoff. BYU, the 11 seed. Congrats, you're in. Iowa State, the 4 seed, winner of the Big 12. Yeah, well, Army could be there. Shut up. No, that is pointless. BYU finally in this AP poll above Notre Dame, who lost in Northern Illinois. Iowa State's a top 10 team. Hey, excuse me, in the back here. Clemson's at number 9 above Iowa State and BYU. They've beaten one team that has a winning record. Who was that winning record team, you ask? Oh, that was Virginia. If BYU or Iowa State had lost to Georgia by 31 points and not put up a touchdown, would they be ranked above Clemson? Are we going to give Clemson merit for getting curb stomped earlier this season? And I'm not going to tell you that Iowa State playing at Iowa is equivalent to Clemson, Georgia. I'm not going to tell you BYU playing at SMU is equivalent to Clemson playing Georgia. I won't. But they got killed. We did. Our teams did something different. We won the football game. Yeah, well, there's LSU at 8. Oh, I keep telling you this. The same LSU that lost to USC. Tennessee's at 7. Yep, they lost on the road to Arkansas, who is putrid at football and will fire its coach. They are trying to give you an edge. The AP poll is not good. And despite the AP poll not being good, I'm convinced that the AP poll voters, they sleep in on Saturday. Oh, long Friday night. They're probably a local news reporter. Yeah, writing in the paper about high school football. Oh, had to watch Lorena play Franklin in 3A Texas football. Got to go sleep. Oh, no. Woke up past my alarm. It's 12:30. I've already missed a whole college football game, half a college football game. Well, I got to make breakfast before I can turn it all on. I only have one TV. Oh, my goodness. Well, shoot. It's 1:45. Making breakfast was so tough. I'm going to take a nap. Oh, my gosh. I missed my nap alarm. It's 4 o'clock. Oh, time for dinner. Oh, the restaurant doesn't have TVs. Oof. Well, I worked a lot these last couple days. This is a tough week for me. I'm going to go to bed at 8:45, 9 o'clock. Shoot, I forgot to watch college football today. Here's my ballot. Just put the SEC in the Big Ten in the top 10 and then worry about the rest of it. My intern will fill it out. I'm convinced that's what happens. Yet still, despite that ineptitude, despite the inability to create a legitimate AP top 25, we have 2 college football playoff teams. The number 4 team in the country, Iowa State, because they're winners of the Big 12, and number 11, BYU. And the best case scenario here for us is something that happened is something that's playing out here. It's very similar to 2022. Those 2 schools, undefeated, meet in the conference championship game. Whoever wins the game, automatic bid college football playoff. Navy is not getting in ahead of you. I can guarantee that. The other team has built a resume to also solidify its spot. Hey, and brother, the best case scenario here is for Kansas State, Iowa State to get to the end of the year, and Iowa State loses to Kansas State, and it's BYU, Kansas State in the championship. Kansas State beats BYU. Uh-oh. 2 12-1 Big 12 teams and an 11-1 Big 12 team? Oh, we could probably leave them out for 9-3 Missouri, right, guys? No, you can't. Sorry. We'll just slide our 3 Big 12 teams in there. A lot can happen between now and then. The Big 12's chaos, parity. Change your vernacular a bit, because we got 2 big dogs that keep winning. And the more they win, it's not this conference of, the Big 12 is going to cannibalize itself. Hey, not those 2, not those 3, not those 4, not those 5, Cincinnati. They're not cannibalizing anything. They're winning. And the more that you start to promote the teams at the top of this conference, the better a shot we get, because that's what they look at, branding. Only branding for the college football playoff. Not losses. They don't care, really. If you lose 3 games, maybe they'd give okay, well, smell you. But by and large, Georgia could lose another game and be fine. Be fine. Yeah. Therefore, we need to promote the teams at the top of our conference because we have some legit ones. Coming up tomorrow, I have like an upper respiratory thing. Did you have fun on today's show? Someone told me recently that I sounded like Jim Rome. Is that a compliment? Who is Jim Rome? I don't listen to Jim Rome. How? Is that valid? I've heard it 3 times now. Like, stop the Jim Rome shtick. It's like, I don't know what that means. I'm just talking into a microphone for my job. Tomorrow there will be more football. This has been, it always will be, Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose grande.